The NFL season is finally here, so make sure you're ready with NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV. It gives you the most live NFL games all in one place, exactly what you need to make your Sundays more magical. Sign up today at youtube.com/Sunday Ticket. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
This episode is brought to you by Honda. When you test drive the all-new Prologue EV, there's a lot that could impress you about it. There's the class-leading passenger space, the clean, thoughtful design, and the intuitive technology. But out of everything, what you'll really love most is that it's a Honda. Visit honda.com/EV to see offers.
Hello and welcome to the Oregonian OregonLive's Beaver Banter podcast. I'm Nick Daschel and I cover Oregon State football for the Oregonian. Oregon State kicked off its 2024 season with a 38-15 win over Idaho State on Saturday. The Beavers head to San Diego State this Saturday for their first road game of the season. Joining as he will every week during the season is former Oregon State defensive end Isaac Hodgins. Isaac, how are you doing?
Doing good. Doing a little better after, pulling off a win. We'll take it any way we could get it. So,
is it weird to hear yourself referred to as former Oregon State defensive end?
Yeah,
after 6 years of playing in college and however many in high school and middle school and all that.
I know. I played football for so long in college. I thought that was just the rest of my life there.
Yeah,
played a little bit too long, but thanks COVID.
Well, you still got your brother, I guess, that can keep you, interested for something. But
football family, we're always got football brewing and on our minds.
Yeah. Does your dad coach?
He was coaching for a while. He stopped coaching because he had to watch my games, Isaiah's games. So it was a lot. It was a lot to have a Friday night game, then a Saturday game, and then a Sunday morning game.
In your new role as fan instead of player, what's game day like for Isaac Hodgins?
Game days, it's a lot more lax. Usually on game days you're a little stressed and worried. You kind of have to be the entertainment for everyone else. But thankfully I don't have to wake up and get in the right mindset. I can wake up at 10 a.m. and take a little stroll over to the stadium and, have no.
How far do you live from the stadium?
I don't live far at all. I live right across the way. I can hear the music if I
really? Wow.
So
did you do any tailgating yesterday or was it?
Yeah, I went to the alumni tailgate. Sometimes there's tailgates with, people from work, and Pacific office always does a tailgate around the way. Yeah. It's definitely a different vibe to just wake up and not be worried about being on the gridiron. It's nice, but it's also a little bit sad. So
were you down on the field during warm-ups yesterday, or? Yeah,
I was down on the field during warm-ups. My cousin actually played running back at Idaho State. So he was a new transfer. He just got on the team, so he's still kind of finding his way. So I was talking with him before the game, and then a bunch of the other players. Tolly was down there. It was good to see. It was good to see all the guys out there. So
last weekend for the NFL guys to show up at their college. The job starts next week. So
right, yeah, he's about ready to go. Started.
So when you're watching them warm up, are you jealous, or are you going, yeah, I'm done with this?
A little bit of both, I love the process of football, which is why I love football so much. Are you hearing these alarms on my computer? I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, I heard some, but I assume it's a text message or something going off.
Yeah, let me turn that off. But it's definitely a different vibe for sure. I enjoyed the pregame warm-ups and doing all the fun things like, having your pregame rituals. And, I saw the D linemen warming up with some pass rush and all those kind of things. So I definitely miss it. No doubt I miss it. But it's nice being a fan. Get a beer during halftime, whatever it may be.
Yeah. I mean, I know some players, whether they miss the game or not, the game reminds them every morning when they wake up that, it's painful.
Yeah.
But you're still kind of young. So the aches and pains, are they not there so much or?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the reason I had to stop playing is because, I had all those foot injuries and my foot just still hasn't fully healed from all that. So I'm able to bear it while I'm young. And, who knows when I'm older? My dad had similar surgeries. So he's like, man,
yeah,
I wake up, my body still hurts. I feel the, waking up, kind of got to like warm up your car in the morning, kind of sit there for a little bit, get the joints moving. But it's not too bad right now. We'll see.
Give it about 10 years or so. Exactly. And then, well, we'll see. Hopefully it won't be too bad. We were talking about this Idaho State game last week, and you'd mentioned that, the respect all, fear none mentality. And but when you're playing a team like Idaho State, is there a tendency to think that, you're physically better, so let's, kind of get through the game without showing as much, not showing too much, have some fun and not try to get anybody hurt? Or is that can you do that? You
could do that, I think, scheme-wise. I definitely think scheme-wise, definitely on the defensive front, you're not going to show, all your blitzes and everything that you got kind of teed up that are like those are your home run hits. You don't want to show those, game one against, Idaho State. And so you kind of got to give it your time to, you just want to like go out there. You just want to win with base pass rushes. You don't want to have to win with, all these different kind of rushes and stunts and whatnot. And so I think they definitely, but physically you want to go out and dominate. There's no holding back there. Right.
Yeah.
But definitely, on the side of like your plays and strategy, like let's hold back a little bit, let's not show all of our cards game one.
Right. I was curious, did you guys really like the turnover chainsaw? How did that, I mean, were you guys really into that, or was that, I mean, how did that go for you as a defense?
I want to give, I kind of want to let all the Beaver fans in on something. I'm pretty sure I'm responsible for the turnover chainsaw. When it came out and, the Miami turnover chain or whatever, I remember telling my defense line coach, I was like, it was Coach Lose. I was like, Coach Lose, I think we need to do the turnover chainsaw. And he was like, yeah, it does sound like a good idea. Next few meetings go by, Coach Tibbs introduces the turnover chainsaw. So I'm like, man, like I need to get my trademark on there. But I think it pumps all of us up. I mean, it pumps the guys up, pumps everyone up. So
did they give you credit for it or no?
I don't think so. I don't think they give me credit for it, but I give myself credit for it.
Well,
I just want to set the record straight on that.
Well, we'll have to do something about that. So I'm curious. Yesterday, Trent got thrown in a cold tub in the locker room after the win. Being his first win and all. What's the wildest post game you ever experienced?
Wildest post game I ever experienced.
I mean, I would guess probably the Oregon win at Reser, but yeah. I mean, it didn't. I guess it didn't have to be the biggest win. It could have just been somebody went. Really set off the Oregon win.
I think it was the Oregon win because I believe it was Coach Langey's birthday. Everyone, that's a tradition we do at Oregon State. We throw everyone in the cold tub on their birthday. So Coach Bray got thrown in. It was consider this his birthday, first win as a head coach. You know what I mean? So he'll get thrown in and whatnot. But we threw in Coach Langey kind of against his will. He's a big guy. So,
he didn't want to go in?
And he gave in at a certain point, but, it took a few hefty defensive linemen to get him thrown in. Tolly kind of, we overpowered him, so, but I think that just having wins like that, I mean, first win as a head coach, just celebrating with all the guys, it's something special.
Yeah. What's Sunday like after a game for a player?
Oof. Don't get me started with Sundays. You would think that you would have the day off. It's a lighter practice, but Sunday, how I did it, how we did it is we got off until about noon, and then we would have meetings, a team meeting. We would work out. We would have a workout first, then we have our meeting, and then we go to, a light Sunday night practice. And, it kind of sucks to practice after a game, but you kind of get you get your body moving, movement is medicine.
Yeah.
So it's nice though on Monday, because Monday was the day we got off. So that was nice to kind of get in like a practice, but it really wasn't a practice, kind of just corrections. So, Sunday's not as relaxing as you would like to be, but Monday's real nice.
Well, Monday is the mandatory day off. The
Right.
NCAA makes everybody take one day off. I mean, did you guys feel like you actually got the day off?
Oh yeah. You get the day off, but it's encouraged obviously to get into the training room, get into the meeting room, kind of watch some extra film for that game coming up.
Right.
So it's encouraged to, do a little extra, stay moving. Don't just sit on the, couch and be a couch potato.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's onto the game. Start with the defensive side. It felt like the pressure sort of built up during the game. It seemed like it was a little hit and miss early in the game. Then there was more the second half. I mean, the quarterback wasn't on the ground much, but it seemed like the heat got turned up later in the game to force some bad throws. What did you see?
Yeah, I saw first play. What I liked about it is it looked like they just kind of said, go out and go win. Like, let's win against these guys. One-on-one matchups. Samisi Saluni got a quick win the first play and got in the quarterback's face and caused a hurried ball. And so I thought I saw the pocket was messy for the most part. I mean, we're chasing a quarterback out of the pocket. We had about 1.5 sacks, a bunch of quarterback hits. So I like seeing that from like guys just winning on a one-on-one basis and not having to do it with stunts. We did throw some stunts in there, some basic stunts, but we didn't show a whole lot of our aggressive, strategic kind of like, hey, these all-out blitzes. We didn't have to use that to get to a quarterback, which is something I like.
Yeah. So from what you saw yesterday, you didn't feel like they even really went too many pages into the playbook, or
I think it was pretty basic. I mean, there were some basic stunts of, two guys go this way, one guy wrap around. And for the most part, it looked like guys were just out there rushing, winning their one-on-ones. And obviously college football is tough because the ball is out so quick. But I thought they handled it fairly well. I would have liked the pocket to be collapsed a little bit more, like in a net-like fashion, where it's just the pocket gets constricted rather than just one guy winning and then the quarterback's able to get out of the pocket. So you kind of want to see the pocket collapse uniformly in a uniform fashion. But I thought they did pretty decent game one. You're still trying to fill out what works best for you, what's actually going to work against your opponent.
Does it make it how much more difficult does it make it when they're playing four quarterbacks?
Oh, yeah.
Did things change much, or is the scheme still the scheme and it's just another guy back there?
I mean, it depends. If you put in two quarterbacks who are pocket passers, nothing really changes for you, right? But if they put in a dual threat quarterback, it's kind of lights go off in your head, like, hey, we gotta be cautious of how we're rushing. Like you see a few times, guys will take an inside move and the quarterback gets out of the pocket. You don't want that to happen.
Yeah. Any player really catch your eye yesterday up front?
I thought Samisi did really well. I thought Thomas Collins did well. And I thought Skyler looked really good on the back end. I thought our back end looked fairly good. Got 2 takeaways, which is huge. But I thought Samisi looked natural out there. He looked confident out there, and he was playing a ton. Obviously we got second sack for him.
Do you anticipate Oregon State going quite a bit deeper next week with San Diego State? I mean, is that part of the thinking? You just don't want to show your next few opponents anything if you don't have to?
Right. Yeah. I mean, ideally, you would like to win. You would like, ideally, to just rush 4 dudes and get to the quarterback every time, 4 people. you don't want to have to pull people out of coverage into the rush.
Yeah.
But you do have to do that at times because you're not able to get there with just 4. But if you could get there with 4, do that every time and then drop 7 dudes into coverage and you're good.
Right.
And so, ideally you'd like to just rush 4 all the time. So we'll see what their game plan goes with San Diego State. Obviously you got Oregon that next week, so you may not want to show too much.
Right. Well, I was going to get to San Diego State a little bit later on something that I was going to ask you about. But for a player like Isaiah Chisholm, he had 3 big penalties on one drive. I think it was a horse collar and then a personal foul, and then he had the targeting.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got him ejected, obviously. What do you say to him as a teammate, when a guy goes through a run like that? Because that was a touchdown because he, pretty much gave him 40 yards offense on one drive.
Yeah, I think it's just something that it's tough because that's what you kind of get when you got a young team. You're out there, bullets are flying. You're trying to you're doing things that's just the game's not really slowed down for you quite yet. And so I think it's something that's just going to come with time and discipline, obviously. When it comes with time and discipline, you're able to slow down, your level of play a little bit to where, hey, you're thinking consciously in your head, hey, this guy's about to catch the ball. Let me go a little lower. Target zone, go. We're taught to go low on a target zone, don't go high. That's just stuff you got to learn with time. But obviously, even with time, this is a violent game. Mistakes happen. And so you can't blame the kid too much. He's playing hard, he's playing fast, but you can't have those errors like that and that lead to a touchdown. I guarantee you Coach Brady's talked about that. Hey. I
was going to say, you probably don't want to be on the other end of that conversation with Trent Bray,
right?
Do you?
Yeah, it's especially Coach Bray with the linebacker room. I already know he's shown it in the team room of like, hey, if we don't have this penalty here, we're off the field. And when you have penalties that lead to touchdowns, that's the worst you can have.
Yeah. Offensively, it definitely looked like Oregon State went vanilla yesterday. Idaho State's defense kind of invites the run to begin with, and seemed like she was just too happy to run it yesterday. Is that how you saw it, or did you see anything differently?
I got mixed feelings about what I saw. Just mixed feelings, and I didn't like the constant rotation of the offensive line. I didn't like the quarterback switching. It's just you kind of want to give some guys a way to kind of jive and gel together. I thought we struggled a bit with the run at first, and then stuff really started to pick up towards the end. Obviously, we got two guys rush for 150 yards. That's great.
Yeah.
But I thought at first it was kind of like, I just thought there just needs to be a little bit more meshing on the offensive side of the ball, just like learning to play together, the offensive line learning to block together, and how each guy likes to move and maneuver.
Yeah.
And then obviously building trust with who's the guy who's going to be in the backfield running the offense.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think the plan going in was to try to play 8 offensive linemen, which kind of isn't what has been in the past. Oregon State's pretty much gone with 5 guys and really stuck them unless they got hurt or something. But I did notice like Grant Stark went out early, and I don't know if he ever came back. And I noticed, they kind of, the right side of the line was kind of, and they played Vincic a little bit at center.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was some of that, but yeah, but scheme wise, did it feel like they weren't really doing anything to graduate level?
Yeah, you just saw a lot of zone and you didn't see anything, real special kind of pass wise. You saw a lot of crosses, and obviously we had that deep bomb to David Wells, and that was awesome. Yeah. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of fireworks, and I don't know if that was just scheme wise or if that was just because we didn't have anything to produce. You know what I mean? At a certain point of the game, it was a 1-score game. It almost looked like at some points it's like, oh, I'm getting a little nervous, right? So I don't know if it was kind of like, oh, we're blowing these guys out, so let's not show anything. It's like at the end of the day, you got to win the game. So
right. Mentally, when you're playing defense, how does it impact the defense when the other team is just running it down your throat and you just can't stop it? I mean, I guess the Oregon game was one example of that for you guys a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I could just remember 2018 when I first started. I mean, anyone could do anything they wanted to do against our defense. They could run the ball, they could pass the ball. It's just demoralizing, especially as a guy up front, when someone's just running the ball down your throat, the run's coming and you can't stop it. It's the most demoralizing thing, I think, in football, honestly, is just not being able to stop the run. Because it's just basically like we're going to impose our will upon you, and there's nothing you could do about it. And so we were able to do that, which felt good. And then obviously we stopped the run too. I think they had 54 rushing yards, something like that.
Yeah, they don't run the ball a lot. They don't run the ball. Well, they're trying to run a little bit more this year, but I don't think that they're still going to throw it a lot. That's just what they do.
Yeah. But I mean, at any level of the game, like you don't want to have under 100 rushing yards. I mean, even if you don't run a lot.
I was curious about how players feel about being involved in a team that has a run heavy offense, because it just feels like in today's game it's all about chucking the ball down the field and big points. Do players care as long as they're winning, or do they like to play in a more of a high tempo passing offense?
I mean, I know for me and the offensive linemen and really the guys who are involved in a 9-on-7 during practice, we take great pride in being able to stop the run and run the ball. And if you feel like you can't go out and run the ball, there's only so far you could go in this game, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we've seen it. Like we see Washington State. I mean, they're just airing the ball out all the time, and how it was back then. And at the end of the day, if you can't run the ball and you can't stop the run, like you're not going to have pride in your football team. And I think guys take great pride in being able to run the ball and stop the run. I don't think that's changed. I don't think it'll ever change.
Felt like the quarterbacks yesterday were okay, and that's really all they had to be. I don't feel like we learned a whole lot about Giovanni McCoy. He was fairly accurate, and it looks like he has the ability to throw it deep. And Johnson looks like he could be a problem running the ball. And I don't know about his arm yet, but I mean, what did you see from the quarterbacks out there?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously I like seeing the scramble ability. I just didn't think there was much of a test, though. We haven't really gotten that real test to see what's really going to happen. Like what's really going to happen when you can't connect on offense and you're struggling. Are we gonna switch quarterback out? What's going to happen there? Like we really didn't see how guys are gonna handle things. And this is a different league. At the end of the day, you're playing. You got Oregon your third game. That's a tough ask for some young quarterbacks who don't have a lot of experience playing at that level.
Did you find, let's say, Oregon is next week, and you've brought it up a few times. So obviously you're thinking about Oregon already, not that you're playing, but I mean, San Diego State's going to be an issue to begin with. Is it difficult to, not think about Oregon when you got to deal with San Diego State first? Is that
right? I
know the coaches are going to be harping on it, but will you listen?
Yeah. Obviously I'm a fan now, so that's what I'm thinking about. But obviously, as a player, you're trying to play your best against who you have next, right? At the end of the day, you have to you got to put your hand in the dirt, and you got to face the guys. You got to face Aztecs like that. That's what you have at the end of the day. You can't worry about what's after that week. It's just impossible to do. And if you are doing that, it's not going to end up well, as you could see. Last time we played these guys, no one was really focused on the game. They were focused on what they wanted to do after or what was going to happen. So lack of focus could definitely hurt you.
Well, looking ahead to San Diego State, a couple things on that. It's the first road game of the year. What's that like for first-year players for their first road game?
I think it's tough because you gotta address this is a business trip at the end of the day. You're gonna go to San Diego. It's gonna be nice weather. It's gonna be beautiful. You're gonna be lured into kind of, hey, I'm on vacation. This is a nice hotel. I'm getting Jamba Juice as I'm going on to the plane. Like, this is nice. Where's the pina coladas? Like, no, you gotta be able to lock in and be like, hey, I'm on a business trip, and that's something that Coach Bray really harps on. Like, we're on a business trip. We're not here to have fun. We're here to win a football game. And so, as a first-year player, that's something you really got to focus on. And if you don't have a good culture of people being locked in, I've experienced both of having a bad culture of people not being locked in, having a good culture of people being locked in. It's tough.
Yeah. Well, I assume as you got older, you were kind of at the forefront of making sure guys had the right mindset going into these road trips, I imagine.
Yeah, right. I was always kind of had that mindset of being locked in, and I grew up in a football family, so I knew how to do football at a high level. So it was never a hard thing for me to be locked in before a game.
By the time you got to your 6th year, how'd you like road trips?
Yeah, I mean, I always loved road trips. I never hated it. I mean, especially when it starts raining around here and you got a road trip to U of A or Arizona State. You're staying at a nice resort. It's really nice. You get a bunch of this good food catered, and then obviously you get to go play the greatest game in the world. I mean, I love road trips. It's just it's tough because you don't have the same atmosphere. You don't have the comfortability of being at your own locker. You're going to this strange place that you're not used to, and you're going into this locker room that's really tight, and it's usually not the best of facilities. And so that's the part that kind of gets you, is you're not feeling as comfortable as you do at home.
Was that, you guys always, most teams, as soon as the game's over, you dress, shower, whatever, get something to eat, and then you're on the plane. There's no downtime at all. Did you like that, just immediately coming home right after a game, or would you like to spend a few hours and then get on the plane Sunday morning?
No, I like getting out of Dodge, say hello to the family who's there, but let's get back. And once we land that plane, get off the plane, like, it's on to the next week. So I like to, it's that physical, okay, that's done. Whatever happened is done. Once we clear that film, it's done. Let's go to next week. I love the quick turnaround.
The main question going into Saturday's game is going to be how Oregon State defends their freshman quarterback, Danny O'Neill. He's a true freshman, and this will be a second college game. I imagine for a defensive lineman, you guys are just rubbing your hands, and you're going to get. I mean, how do you approach a game like this where the guy hasn't played a lot of college football, and obviously he's talented because he wouldn't be playing this early in his career if he wasn't. But I mean, you try to get into his head. You throw a few more things at him early in the game. How do you approach something like that?
I mean, I really don't think it changes much. You just try to get in his face as early as often. It's not necessarily about getting a sack. It's about messing up his throwing motion, not allowing him to follow through on a pass, not allowing him to step up in the pocket. Little things like that can razzle someone who's a little younger, is not used to it. Back in high school, you're used to having a clean pocket all the time and being the best out there. If you can make the pocket ugly often and mess with his rhythm, you're not going to allow someone to get in a rhythm, and that's what you want to stop as a defensive lineman.
Were you much of a talker with quarterbacks?
Yeah, when I could. I mean, it was a little sly. I was more of a sly, funny comment kind of guy, like we play like a Stanford or something. Like, oh, you're pretty smart, huh? What's your major? Or, just asking stupid stuff. Or sometimes we would look up like, hey, what's his girlfriend's name? And then we'd make that as one of our calls on the defensive line. His girlfriend Susie would be like, Susie. Like, okay, move over to the left. And just little things like that to kind of get in people's heads. So we always like that.
Did it ever work? Did it ever work?
Maybe. I don't know.
No.
I might have to ask someone someday, but I mean, it's just one of those things you do, just kind of, you never know. They might go back in the huddle like, dang, like whenever someone said something crazy to me on the field, I would just be back on the bench like, dude, this guy said this. That was crazy.
Yeah. So Oregon State's a 4.5-point favorite Saturday. As players, I mean, do you guys ever pay attention to point spreads at all, or
I never.
I mean, I'm
did.
sure you.
Yeah,
you probably heard of them.
Yeah, I never really even. I was all focused on the game and left all the noise to everyone else. I was just only focused on what personnel do they run the most, what are the tendencies they like to do. Those are the kind of things that we like to focus on.
So every week I get on social media and I ask fans for some questions if they have any, and so boy, I had a lot of them this week, but I'm not gonna go into them. But we got a few minutes here to hit a few of them. But one of them was actually somebody asked me this one last week. So last year at Arizona, I'm trying to remember, you were a late scratch in that game, weren't you? At Arizona?
Yeah, I traveled in that game, but I had gotten a sports hernia, and so I was still recovering from that.
Yeah, I thought it was like you went down and they weren't sure, and then I think you didn't end up playing.
But then didn't end up playing.
But the question was, so as players, what did you guys think of the call to have the kicker run on fourth down instead of?
I was thinking about that actually when I was watching the Arizona game this past after the Beaver game. I was like, man, I can't believe we did that, because we called the play and then there was a penalty or something that happened where we showed a little bit of what was about to happen, but we weren't sure if they saw or not. And then we just ran it again, and it was from farther back. I think hindsight's 20/20. It would have been nice to have those extra 3 points, but that was one of those things. It was like, no, are we running it again? Didn't we just showed it? And then obviously it didn't work. So that was one of those things. Obviously, you wish you could have back. Just take the 3.
I mean, do you remember if players were not happy with it, or do you think, or were they, this is Jonathan, that's what he does, that's why we love him, because he takes chances, or I mean,
I think it was a little more of the first one was just kind of like, man, why? Because we showed it a little bit. We showed what we were going to do, and then we ran it again back to back. And so I think right then people were like, what are we doing? But obviously you don't want to let too much of that out. You just kind of want to, hey, let's next play. We got a whole nother quarter left, right? In the moment, you're not trying to focus on that, but after the game, there are some conversations around that.
So I had a lot of questions about guys that are hurt and whether they're coming back or not, and I don't really have answers to any of this stuff really. But did you find people were always asking you stuff about, who's going to play, who's not going to play, things like that when you were? It seems like fans are pretty obsessed with who's going to be in the game and who's not going to play this week.
Yeah, it's tough to say. Sometimes we don't even know. Sometimes I'll be walking around like last year, be like, hey, you playing this game? Like, I don't know, maybe. A lot of us don't know either. So that's kind of that's just the nature of the game. It's a physical game. You get hurt and you try to play through something, but you never know.
Yeah, I don't get the impression Trent's going to be. I don't get the impression he's going to tell us a lot of stuff about guys whether they're going to play or not.
I don't think so.
Yeah, he's. Somebody asked, what are the differences you're seeing between what Bray did as a DC and then what you saw yesterday with Keith? Do you see any things that really stood out to you defensively?
I mean, it's hard to say because I think they kept it pretty basic yesterday. It looked a lot of it looked very familiar. Everything we're doing, like I saw the formations. I still remember names of them. So it looks like it's still kind of the same program, but maybe just a little tweaks here and there. It didn't look all too different.
Somebody asked. It was a quick throw offense by Idaho State, but where was the pass rush? I'm just curious. Was it the quick throws that were kind of making it a little difficult to get to the quarterback early on, or
I don't know. I think it's tough. Maybe if you're watching on the TV, you see, the camera will pan away a bit. as the ball's thrown. But I had the sense that, we were right there. Obviously, there were quick throws, but on so many plays, TC was right there. Samisi was right there. Nico was right there. Like, there's so many plays where it's just like one more step, and that's a ball that's flapping like a duck, and it's a pick, or the ball's getting battered, or whatever it may be. I thought the pass rush was I was actually surprised with it. I thought it was fairly good. Obviously, it wasn't huge, but that's all I watched all game pretty much. So,
yeah. This one's just sounds like more of a shot than anything else. But this guy says, any chance we ran so much to show a former running back what might have been? Damian Martinez, obviously.
I think Damian might be happy where he's at.
Probably, at least his bank account is. I'm pretty sure. This one guy, I mean, this is not. And some of these are questions to me, but this one said, "I may have missed it, but why didn't Ben Gulbertson get some snaps?" And I honestly don't know. He was supposed to. That was the plan. And at least Monday he was going to play some, and he didn't play.
Yeah. I was
kind of feel bad. I feel bad for that guy.
Yeah,
man,
I was surprised, honestly. Just, all the former players I was talking with who play with Ben, we were all super surprised. Just, just kind of like, you know what you're going to get with Ben, and it's pretty consistent. Yeah. It's pretty good. I foresee him possibly getting in rotation somewhere down the line.
Yeah, I don't think anything's settled at quarterback yet. I don't really know that. Yeah, Giovanni might be the guy the whole season if he plays well, but I don't know that. I don't know that they know either yet.
Right?
So,
yeah, it's one of those things. If he does well, yeah. If not, let's make it work.
Then the last question here is: what is Isaac's favorite type of pizza?
Favorite type of pizza?
Did I hear you last week and when you said you were a vegan?
You said what?
I said, did not hear you last week when you said you were a vegan.
I was a vegan for 2 years. You can ask my teammates. It was tough. I would get vegan meals and everything. But my favorite pizza is pepperoni pizza, but it's got to be the curled pepperoni. It's the pepperoni that curls up into a little bowl type, got a little grease in the bottom of it. That's the best pepperoni pizza. If it's anything other than that, I don't really want it. So
is American Dream pretty much where most students and athletes go in town for pizza, or is there another place?
I'll be honest, me and my wife aren't huge fans of American Dream pizza. Well, Tristan Gebbia, he's a big culinary guy. He's also not a fan of American Dream.
Wow.
Not that this American Dream. Sorry if any of them are watching, but
I kind of grew up with Woodstock. So
Woodstock. My wife likes Woodstock. If my wife likes it, then it's good because she's a very picky eater. She's from kind of New York area, so she's used to good New York pizza. Our spot is Basil and Board in Salem, so that's where we like to go.
That's a little, that's a little. So you got to go out of town to get pizza then.
Yeah, either that or Woodstock's, one of those two.
Yeah. No, Woodstock has been around for a long time.
Really good.
But so. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this week's podcast. We'll be back a week from now to talk a little bit about San Diego State and then everybody's favorite opponent, the Ducks.
We'll be 2-0 going to that game.
You're calling a W, okay?
Yeah, come on now.
You're not going to go beyond that though and call 3-0 yet.
Let's start with 2-0.
Yesterday probably got you a little excited after 24-14 down in Eugene.
Yeah, I was like, okay, Sanders a chance. Here we go.
Yeah, so. All right. Hey, we'll see you later. Thanks.
All right.